the big story of the day is indeed the Aaron Rodgers situation. And happy birthday, Matt LaFleur. You're 42, and you got to spend about 16 minutes of your special day getting grilled by reporters who would like to know more about this Aaron Rodgers unvaccination situation. Here's some of what Matt LaFleur said to reporters earlier today.
I'm not going to get into any of our coaches or players' vaccination status.
Were you aware of his status, Aaron's status, before today?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into anything.
If he is unvaccinated, a lot of people are going to see that as being a selfish decision on his part, given what he means to your team. How do you see that?
I think everybody has to make their own personal decision, and that's just what it is.
Aaron himself addressed it in August when he was asked about a vaccination status and said, "Oh yeah, I've been immunized." Do you feel like a quote like that might be seen as misleading to fans?
It's a great question for Aaron. I'm not going to comment on it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. Now, in LaFleur's defense, the NFL's protocols that were developed hand in hand with the NFL Players Association limit the things that can and can't be said. And I'll give you an example of how strange these protocols are. They can't come out and say who is and isn't vaccinated. However, the way that they report on the positive tests and the guys that are placed on COVID reserve, etc., you can figure out who is and isn't vaccinated, especially when someone is placed on COVID reserve due to a close contact. They won't tell you why a guy is placed on COVID reserve. They just place him on COVID reserve. But then in the footnotes to the day's transactions, they give you enough where you can thread the popcorn on your own. It's weird. It's bizarre. We should have more transparency here. And I know that it was an arm's length negotiation between the league and the union, but when you're talking about a serious public health issue, I think it's fair for everyone to know who is and isn't vaccinated, especially if someone is going to be asked point blank, Myles, are you vaccinated? And the response is, yeah, I'm immunized, and I'm not going to judge any of my teammates who aren't vaccinated.
Yes, 100%. I agree. And listen, we've been dealing with this pandemic for 18 months, 20 months now. We're at a point where, yeah, I think people are tired who have been vaccinated of dealing with folks who are unvaccinated and don't mind perpetuating this public health crisis. I mean, frankly, I understand people who feel that way. And so I think when you're asked a direct question, as Aaron Rodgers was, and he answered in the affirmative, and then he not only continued on to say, I'm not going to judge the people who are unvaccinated, but did not do anything at any time to correct the perception that he was vaccinated, because he was not vaccinated. And whatever holistic treatment or homeopathic treatment that he received by a doctor that may have made him think, yeah, I'm immunized, actually was the truth at that point. Look, it was determined by the NFL and the NFLPA that he is not vaccinated. So at no point did anyone ever try to correct that incorrect perception based off of what Aaron Rodgers told reporters back in August. And at this point, it's really an interesting thing that he was able to perpetuate this perception for this long, and now everything comes undone by the fact that he's tested positive.
Right, and he knew that the possibility of that happening was hovering over him every single day because as an unvaccinated player, he was tested every single day. Now, we'll let you hear for yourself. You've probably seen it at some point today if you've been paying any attention to the story. But in the event you haven't, if you're watching us on Peacock or listening on Sirius XM 211, here is what Aaron Rodgers said August 26 when asked the very specific, unambiguous question as to whether he, not somebody else, he is vaccinated.
Are you vaccinated, and what's your stance on vaccinations?
Yeah, I've been immunized. There's a lot of conversation around it, around the league, and a lot of guys who have made statements and I've made statements, owners who made statements. There's guys on the team that haven't been vaccinated. I think it's a personal decision. I'm not going to judge those guys. There's guys who have been vaccinated that have contracted COVID. So it's an interesting issue that I think we're going to see played out the entire season.
Oh, he didn't know how right he was. Oh, he didn't know how right he was with that one, Myles. You know, it reminds me of a classic episode of Seinfeld where Elaine is hosting a baby shower at Jerry's apartment. And Jerry comes back because George wants to confront a woman that he took on a date that dissed him after that. And there was this build-up as to what George was going to say, and obviously he doesn't say anything. But the twist is that Jerry runs into a woman that he once went on a date with, and he never called again, and she had her chance to confront him. And as he's hemming and hawing, she yells, "Liar!" And that's what I'm thinking as he says, "Yeah, I've been immunized. I've been immunized." No. Yeah. Have you been vaccinated? Yeah, I've been immunized. I mean, what is that? And Myles, I can't wait until he speaks again and blames it on us. Come on, blame it on me, Aaron. Blame it on us. We're too dumb to realize when he says immunized, that doesn't mean vaccinated. We should have known. That was the clue. It's not my fault nobody asked me the follow-up question. They didn't need to ask you the follow-up question. They asked you, are you vaccinated? And you said, yeah, I'm immunized. You didn't say, no, I'm immunized. You said, yeah, I'm immunized. And then you said, I'm not going to judge my teammates who aren't vaccinated, which means you are vaccinated, because why in the hell would you judge them if you're not? Because you're not. It's ridiculous. Make it make sense. No one can make it make sense.
Okay, I was going to say that I can't, but yeah, you just said that. I mean, the most generous interpretation that I could give is that at that particular point, and NFL media has reported that, Aaron Rodgers had taken this homeopathic, holistic thing that it was going to make his antibodies rise or whatever to the state of vaccination. All right. And so the most generous interpretation that I can give is that at that point, Aaron Rodgers had not been declared unvaccinated by the NFL and the NFLPA, right? So that is the most generous thing that I can say. And then they gave him that designation, and they said that they declined his exemption, I should say, after that point. And so maybe at that point, he was saying, yeah, I've been immunized. And he felt like he had been, and that there was perhaps a reasonable expectation that he could have been declared vaccinated and received an exemption for vaccination by the NFL and the NFLPA. And like I said, that's the most generous thing that I can say. But that's me being extremely generous. And frankly, if I am a beat reporter in Green Bay, and I've been a beat reporter, I was for many years, I feel like that would be a breaking of trust, because at no point did he try to correct that perception that everybody took from, yeah, I'm immunized, which is, yes, I've been vaccinated. Because frankly, if you go by the CDC's definition, at least, immunization, vaccination, inoculation, all of these things are synonyms. And they usually mean that you've received some sort of shot or some sort of medication or drug, whatever you want to call it, that would vaccinate you. So that's, like I said, it's the most generous thing that I could say there.
There have been some in the media who are friendly to Aaron Rodgers who have twisted themselves in knots today trying to say that immunization means something that doesn't make it a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yes.
And it's okay for us to call liars liars and to say that they're lying. It's okay. At some point we became post-truth America, and that's not good. Few things are firm and inflexible, and the truth is one of them. And this 2 + 2 = 5 bullcrap we've been dealing with for the past 6 years is unacceptable, and it's a difficult environment in which to raise children, and I'm glad my kid is already raised, but I still try to teach him every day that, as D. Smith has said for years, you're entitled to your own opinion, you're not entitled to your own facts. And facts are facts. And the fact is Aaron Rodgers was not vaccinated, even if he was waiting for some ruling. Okay, he could have done what he did a week or so ago when he decided to engage in a mini diatribe on the antiquated rules regarding teams staying in hotels the night before games, even for home games. And he could have said, it's interesting you asked me that, because in the eyes of the NFL, I'm not sure whether or not I'm vaccinated, but I believe I am vaccinated because I believe I'm immunized because I've had a homeopathic treatment that has caused my antibodies to rise to the same level that yours would be at if you've been vaccinated. And at this point, I'm trying to get the NFL to understand and apply some flexibility to the treatment I've received that I believe protects me as much as you are protected. And I'm awaiting the NFL's final decision, and I hope that they will do the right thing. Until then, technically, I'm not considered vaccinated, and I probably should have a mask on right now. Oops, I don't. And that's one of the other things here. All the times he's broken protocol, and the NFL is now looking into this. Because look at it this way. Everybody's afraid of Aaron Rodgers. That's part of the problem. He's a bully. He's a jerk. He'll get mad at people and either freeze you out for life, as people who have been frozen out by him know, or he'll call you out. He'll try to deplatform you if he doesn't like what you say on the platform that you have. So, people tiptoe on eggshells when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. And I'll be completely candid. When I was told by a GM on October 5 that he wasn't vaccinated, I thought this is very intriguing. But you know what? When you're dealing with Aaron Rodgers, you better be 1,000% right before you breathe a word of it, or you're going to have to deal with the wrath of Khan. And when I found the pictures of him at 3 preseason games, and I think we have B-roll, fancy term for footage, of Aaron Rodgers at preseason games without a mask on. See that? Preseason week 1, he's not in uniform. He's not an active player. He is required to have a mask on the entire game. In week 1, he should have had a mask on, but not having one on creates the impression he's vaccinated. Week 2 against the Jets, there he is, unvaccinated, no mask. Same thing for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in the 3rd week of the preseason. He was at the game. He wasn't in uniform. He was on the sideline the entire game with no mask. And I think that he was committed to selling the ruse that he was vaccinated because ultimately, and we can say this is about homeopathic medicine and his fiance makes her own toothpaste and medicine. And I don't want to make it about her. He's got to make his own decisions. And he did not want, ultimately, I believe, Myles, to be criticized by guys like us for not being vaccinated. So he lied about being vaccinated. And when in the public eye or when speaking to reporters in a room that was enclosed twice a week, or at least every week during the season, during the practice week, whenever it was that he was in the room with the reporters, I don't know if it was after the games or during the practice week, he doesn't have a mask on, which tells the world that he's vaccinated. So he deserves everything he gets for this. And I can't wait to hear him talk about it. I can't wait to hear what kind of BS he tries to offer up to justify himself. And I will be very interested to see how the people in the media respond to it. His friends in the media, his foes in the media, the people who just call it like it is, and the people who cover the team. It's going to be a very interesting scorecard when it all happens.
That's what I mean when I'm talking about, the broken trust with the beat writers, because like I said, when you have put off this perception that you are vaccinated because you told them that you were vaccinated, and these are the people who deal with you every week. When you're a beat writer, you try to establish some sort of rapport with the subject that you cover. And yes, not at all times you're not necessarily going to be as critical as someone who, like us, are totally removed from it, and we don't talk to him every week. Frankly, we rely on these people who have these really good, at least they're supposed to, have really good relationships with their subjects because they ask the questions at these press conferences, right? So when you are lying to them, and coaches lie all the time, players lie all the time, right? Like Aaron Jones said today that Kansas City has a great defense. Everybody who's watched a snap of football knows this year that Kansas City does not have a great defense. But those are the lies that they tell so that they're not putting up some sort of billboard material in Kansas City. We all understand that. But when you're asked a direct question like Aaron Rodgers was asked, and then you lie about what the answer is. And we all know, I think, that Aaron Rodgers is extremely calculated in what he says and how he says it. I really wonder about the level of trust that's going to be there between the local beat writers and Aaron Rodgers. And frankly, you also may have a problem with the PR folks who are kind of perpetuating this lie that's gone on from Aaron Rodgers because he is speaking, like you said, Mike, in that room in an enclosed space without a mask. And all of the other folks who have been unvaccinated on the Packers, they've been doing their media availability via Zoom. Got that from ESPN's Rob Demovsky today when he wrote about the situation with Aaron Rodgers. So this is a calculated thing, not just from Rodgers, but also within the Packers organization to make everybody feel like, yes, Aaron Rodgers is vaccinated, okay? And that is something that the league is obviously taking a look at this point, and they should, because what else is going on in the building? Even if Matt LaFleur says, yeah, I'm confident that all the protocols have been followed, are you? Because at a certain point, I believe that it's supposed to be that all unvaccinated players are supposed to be wearing a mask in the building at all times unless they are actively eating or drinking in the cafeteria. And I believe that press conferences are supposed to be one of those times. So if Aaron Rodgers is not doing that, and you have other quarterbacks around the league who have been doing that, like Lamar Jackson, like Carson Wentz, like Kirk Cousins, who have said it with their chest that they are not vaccinated, then this is something that needs to be looked into with Aaron Rodgers.
NFL issued a statement earlier today on the situation, and here it is, Brian McCarthy. We've gotten the same email, and I have some more to add beyond the statement. I'll do that after I tell you what McCarthy said, and this is on behalf of the NFL. The primary responsibility for enforcement of the COVID protocols within club facilities rests with each club. Failure to properly enforce the protocols has resulted in discipline being assessed against individual clubs in the past. The league is aware of the current situation in Green Bay and will be reviewing with the Packers. Now, the fines themselves come from the league. We saw that with Isaiah McKenzie of the Bills. He was spotted on camera, not wearing a mask in the facility. He received a letter from the league, and he put it on social media. This is where the odd secrecy comes into this, Myles, because they're not transparent about when and who they fine for COVID protocol violations, which I think is asinine. And why didn't they demand having that right to be transparent with the public? What does it hurt if guys are breaking protocol? Why aren't they subject to being called out? But that's a different issue. Here's the other thing that McCarthy told me. And this, I wonder if the league would have taken this position if the offending team was the Patriots or the Saints. Because I already had heard from people around the league that, can you only imagine what the NFL would be already doing if it was Patriots or Saints, two of the teams that the NFL likes to come after whenever they can, that was doing this? There already would have been an investigation launched. They already would have had the investigation team dispatched to review all cameras and any other footage and documents.
List.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so here's because I specifically asked McCarthy, because the protocol for the preseason says that everyone on the sideline except active players who isn't vaccinated must be wearing a mask. And we saw the footage. We can show it again if we need to. Week 1, week 2, week 3. He's not wearing a uniform. He's not an active player, right? There it is. Yep. Week 1. He's not going into the game like that. Can we stipulate, Myles, that Aaron Rodgers was not going to go into the game in week 1 or week 2 or week 3 of the preseason in his hoodie with his ball cap and no shoulder pads or helmet to be seen? Can we agree to that?
Yes, I feel like I'm I'm on trial right now, Mike.
Okay.
I'm getting a little uncomfortable. This must be how people used to feel back when you practiced law.
Well, you can handle the truth, though. I will give you that. Here's what McCarthy said. The policy regarding game day inactive and injured players and IR players on the sideline must be masked. That's the game day policy. However, in the preseason, there are no inactive or active designations, official designations, so there's no violation. Are you effing kidding me? He was on the sideline, not in uniform, and just because you don't require the teams to identify who is inactive for a preseason game, that's the safe harbor you're going to give the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And see, the responsibility in that situation, I think, is for the Packers to go to Aaron Rodgers and say, if you're not in uniform, if you're not active tonight, you've got to wear a mask on the sideline. But everybody's afraid of Aaron Rodgers. We've got to tiptoe around the delicate genius, or he's going to call us out. He's going to go on McAfee's show and complain about this person, that person, deplatform them, and enough. It even extends to the league. They're afraid of him too. Everybody's afraid of Aaron Rodgers.
Well, okay, a couple things that I would say. One, to counter the notion that there are no inactive players in the preseason, like, yes, that's pretty obvious, but there are times when teams announce who is and is not going to be playing. And so if the Packers announced, which I kind of believe that they did, that Aaron Rodgers was not going to be playing, and they gave out a list of players that were not going to be in uniform, and Aaron Rodgers was among those players, to me, and I think to anybody else, that constitutes an inactive player, right? And I think that if you're on the sideline in street clothes, that also constitutes an inactive player. So, I mean, we can kind of give the Packers that safe harbor or whatever, but if you're thinking about it logically, he's basically an inactive player, even though there are no designations of who is and is not inactive in the preseason. And I think the other thing that I would say, just about everybody being afraid of Aaron Rodgers, I mean, maybe that's part of why everybody has gone in to perpetuate the lie that Rodgers is vaccinated, because they want to make sure that they keep him happy and try to repair whatever rift there was between the front office and Aaron Rodgers, so he doesn't feel like he's got to leave Green Bay after this season. And frankly, I mean, you still did draft Jordan Love, and now he's got this crazy good opportunity over the next couple games, so almost what did you do that for? But I still think, you don't want to make Aaron Rodgers so mad that he then, gets on his high horse again and is like, I don't want to be here. And maybe that's exactly what all of this is about. So it's very interesting, sort of the way the league has responded to it, and also the way that Green Bay has acquiesced to him and basically said, we'll go along with whatever the perception is here, even though we know it's not true.
Tiptoeing around the delicate genius, and that's what everyone has been doing, especially in Green Bay, where they should be thanking their lucky stars that the reigning MVP decided when he was 50-50 the weekend before the start of training camp, he flipped a coin, and it came up, I'm going to show up, and everybody's going to tiptoe around me because they're so grateful that I'm here. To your point, Myles, and this is the first one I found. I have a feeling we've got these for the other two as well. This is an item that was posted at 11:26 a.m. on August 28, 2021, just 2 days after Aaron Rodgers lied to everybody about being vaccinated. The headline at Packers.com, 31 players will not dress for Packers versus Bills. And the first name on the list is Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
We rest our case. And while you were answering my last question, I copied and pasted that link in a response to Brian McCarthy of the NFL, and with it I said, as they say on ESPN, come on, man. So we'll see what he says in response to that. That's what I said. Come on, man. Seriously. I'm not going to, you can serve me a plate of BS. I don't have to eat it. I can send it back. And I am. They don't, see, when something like this happens, one of the jobs of PR is to keep it from becoming bigger than it is. One way you make it bigger than it is to smack Aaron Rodgers around publicly for violating protocol. So let's come up with a reason. Let's come up with an argument. Let's come up with some tortured logic as to why the rules didn't apply to him in that situation. Even if the Patriots had done something like that, they'd remove next year's first-round draft pick from New England. So don't give me this. Don't give me this. I'm not buying it. Oh, there's no official inactive or active players. Well, teams do it all the time, and he clearly was inactive. He should have had a mask on, and it was all done for him to advance the idea that he is vaccinated when he's not. And we haven't talked about the football side of it. He's gone, Myles, for 10 days. He won't play this week. We thought we were finally going to get Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. Nope, it's never going to happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen 4 years from now or 2 years from now, given the way the rotation works, or if they both get to the Super Bowl. But he's not going to play this week.
Aaron Rodgers isn't there.
Well, he could be somewhere else. He could be with the Broncos. We get it twice a year.
Exactly.
And next week, the earliest he can return to the team is the day before they host the Seahawks. I don't know how comfortable Matt LaFleur is going to be saying to Aaron Rodgers, go ahead and play with no practice whatsoever. You've been gone for 10 days. And he's positive with COVID We don't know what kind of symptoms he's going to have. Is he going to lose weight? Chandler Jones ended up missing a couple of games because he lost 15 pounds during his bout with COVID. So we may not see him again until the Sunday before Thanksgiving when they play the Vikings. We just don't know. And wouldn't it be funny if it's funny to think about it happening, and I can't completely remove it from the radar screen. It really would be funny if this is the thing that makes him say, you know what, screw this. I don't need this. I'm out. I'm done. Screw all of you. I quit. Wouldn't that be funny if he did that?
I mean, maybe not funny, but I mean, it would be certainly interesting. I don't know. I mean, I guess it also kind of depends on how Jordan Love performs in this next game and how engaged Aaron Rodgers can be over the course of the next week. I mean, you don't want him to be like horribly sick, and that's part of the problem with not being vaccinated, right? If you are unvaccinated, you're at a much greater risk of having severe disease with COVID, right? It can really impact you. I think about Myles Garrett last year when there was no vaccine available and he was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He came back and he just was not the same. It really, really impacted him. You could say probably the same thing about Cam Newton too, and he was still with the Patriots. So you don't know how this is going to affect him. You don't know how it's going to be able to affect his preparation for the Seahawks next week. And then if he is able to come in, I mean, look, I don't know how much a guy like that, who's a veteran like that, who's been in the system for so long, needs to practice if he's gotten the mental reps, right? So if he's been engaged virtually in these meetings, then maybe he can come in and play. However, if Jordan Love goes out and he kills it this week against Kansas City, and then he has another really good week of practice for the Seahawks, maybe Matt LaFleur's like, hey, man, I want the guy who's been here, who has learned all of the little nuances of everything that we want him to do, and maybe we see how he goes out and executes. And also, if you're the Green Bay Packers, would you rather have Jordan Love get a 2-game audition against two defenses that are, against the Chiefs and the Seahawks, and then you see what you have, and then maybe you have a better idea of what you've got at quarterback next year, or maybe you say one game, and then, oh my gosh, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, then we bring him back.
Tiptoeing around the delicate genius, that's what the Packers will continue to do. We'll see how it plays out. I really can't wait. I cannot wait for Aaron Rodgers to have something to say. But the reality is he's already been caught in a lie, so he has no credibility with me at this point. Or as Aaron Rodgers himself would say, guys like Aaron Rodgers, don't waste your time reading crap like that.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.